Hello, good people of Taiwan. I'm Mary Hermes. I am the director of a Indigenous group called Grassroots Indigenous Multimedia. I am a professor at the University of Minnesota in curriculum and instruction. I'm happy to be here today to talk to you about Anishinaabe or Ojibwe people and the work we've done to reclaim our language here in northern Wisconsin. With this talk, I'm really focused on this big idea of how Indigenous language also means that we are reclaiming Indigenous lands. As you see in this photo of a language camp, these are the things, traditional practices of subsistence that are a sustainable way to live on this earth that we always practice at our camps. We gather wild rice. Here, a woman is skinning a beaver. We hunt, mostly deer, fish. These are all the ways our people sustain themselves, and we do these activities in our Indigenous Ojibwe language. So now the leap I'm taking in this news project I'm working on is on questioning if we can capture a lot of our youth who see entertainment through the literacy idea of a video game. Those youth, if they could play a game in our language, would it help them to connect to the land? Seems like an oxymoron. A video game. That's what people do inside. Outside is what we do on land. Could it be? Second, I want to know what the place of a video game would have in language reclamation. I'm hoping, and I'm spending a big budget to create this game, that it will assist us in both of these areas. I'll tell you first a little bit more about our context. Here's a picture of the border of the US and Canada and the Great Lakes, which is where we live. This is a better picture. Now, these are all Algonquian languages. So our language family is Arapaho. You may have heard of Chippewa. That's a misnomer for Ojibwe. Miami, Blackfeet, Cree. These are all related language. So this is one of the biggest language families in all of North America. And our specific language within that is Ojibwe or Anishinaabe. Here's some of the current communities. And what you don't see on this map, you'll see our reservations. There's 24 reservations spread out through the north central United States and into Canada is the other half of our population. So it's a very big population, about 300,000. 2/3 of Indigenous people in North America live in cities. So that is also not represented in this map. These are sort of more our traditional homelands. Seattle, for example, they say there's many more Turtle Mountain Chippewas in Seattle than there are on the reservation in North Dakota. We've had a boom in the last 20 years of immersion schools, starting with the Wadukarading Immersion School in 2001. I was part of setting that up. There has been about 11 other schools. These are just the ones recently that have a name that I have added. So with that many immersion schools in the area, we are starting to produce speakers, young kids. So for example, in our reservation of Lakudere, there's no elders who speak Ojibwe. However, there are about 100 second language learners, myself included, and young people who have learned. So people who teach at the school, the families who go to the school, and the kids who've graduated. It's right now a K-8 school, so it goes for 8 years. They are highly proficient in Ojibwe. Now, the thing is, for those kids, after they graduate from that school, they don't have a lot of places they can use our language. So here's a picture of the school, again, very tied to land. These are second graders, and in second grade, of course, you learn how to snare rabbits. And it's a big deal if you get one. It's a great celebration for your first rabbit, your first kill. So my strategy is to provide a place for these young people who have learned Ojibwe proficiently, but also they are only a small fraction of the general population. Hopefully, working with those kids who have learned the language, we will create a video game, especially for people who learn language in classes. Ours is an agglutinating or polysynthetic language. So the very hard thing for us to go from English to a polysynthetic language is you can see all the persons to the left of my screen and on top all the persons. So these particular verbs, they're called verb animate transitive, denote I am speaking to you, or he is speaking to her, or they are speaking to you. Each one of those has a special ending and a special beginning. That's what I'm talking about, the conjugations. You see them here. This is only the main form or the A form. It's not the subordinate form. It's not the negative forms. There's 4 more forms. So I'm giving you a glimpse of how complicated we have to memorize these verb endings and beginnings in order to say who is speaking to who. There's about 84 of these just in this main form. And then you can multiply that by 4 for the subordinate form or the conjunct form, and then both of those in the negative. That's how many very close related beginnings and endings. Sometimes it's ge, sometimes it's ne, sometimes it's m, sometimes it's imin. So they're very close, very hard to distinguish, but they tell you everything about who is talking to whom. I point that out because in our community, people go to classes and they hit this, what we call the VITA bottleneck, a place that's really hard and takes a lot of effort. If you memorize some of these verbs, some of the conjugations, the patterns, ge wabum in, I see you, ge wabum in an im, I see all of you, etc. You need a place to use them. So memorization is only part of it. We don't have a place for you. So our strategy for our video game is to especially make a sandbox where you can play with these difficult verbs and figure out who's talking to whom. That's part of the puzzle you have to solve. So I'm going to talk now about the video game design. The process we used was to have community-based workshops. We've had them over 3 years, over a year. I'm sorry, we're just into the first year. And here's one.
Yeah. Yep. Me do wish to go Akima's Nangan. Yeah. 어제 이거
好，您给我等会儿。你给妈这他们也是，ik heb er jong. Och jag går ner, mamma min vän man då och gamla jong. Mika är så gärna då och så tjän. Då en den man då är tjän. Ja, gina tamma.
The Tom Indian and Damen in Gujigo Imar Odamino winning. Manadu we the Aya Pima.
These videos are included in our YouTube site, Grassroots Indigenous Multimedia YouTube. And these girls were presenting, after 2 days, they had made a game. I was in the group, I'm holding the poster. And you can see a couple things. First of all, they might look to you like racially, they are European. A lot of people on our reservation do appear this way. It's because our identity is not racially based. You could have the racial features that I have, or you could look like these girls in the video. You cannot tell by looks if someone is American Indian or not. The second thing I want to talk about are lessons we got from our documentation project that was just before this one. The big project was called Forest Walks. We had an elder walk with 1 or 2 youth in the forest wearing point of view cameras. With those cameras, they talked about whatever they wanted to. And then we studied through micro-interactional analysis what they did and how they learned. And of course, we saw a couple things. My recent piece in the journal Cognition and Instruction details this, but I'll just cite what's relevant. In this particular footage, I'll play a little.
May the bujo. The bab minang.
You might get came down to my YouTube video up in there, do then.
So the elder in the beginning of the story saw a tree that was shaped like this. And they all said that tree reminded them of a story of our trickster. Now, these are wintertime stories, but the tree in the forest and the girl B put her arm like this to show how the tree was a chair for our trickster. So that's very interesting because one of my fellow researchers, Mel Engman, called that the original augmented reality. There was no devices, but still in the forest, we are reminded of our stories. And they use that to remind themselves that the spirits were all there watching them. And the joke she said at the end was, I am Guamazin. Be careful what you do because they're watching us. So there is a great example of how our stories come alive in the forest and through simple things just like remembering a chair looks like a tree and it reminds you of a story. We're not allowed to tell those stories if the ground is not frozen, and yet they frame and encompass our knowledge building, our teaching, our learning. That's some of that is what we wanted to bring to our game. So after a year of design with community members, we decided to make a point and click adventure game. We decided on this because the augmented reality and the virtual reality technology was out of the scope of our budget, and it's not widely used. Virtual reality, I think, is perfect for language use because you get such a great context, and yet not many people use it. Not many people have phone subscriptions where I live. Not many people even know or have experienced virtual reality. So it's too new at this point for our target audience. So a point and click adventure game can be downloaded and used on a phone or a computer, and it is not internet dependent. We hope this will have a lot of versatility. And also, we just hope it's our first game. Our story is about a girl named Miswa Anangukwe who falls asleep and enters into a dream world. And what she does is she meets characters and challenges that she has to solve, but she also is trying to find these globes which hold 7 sacred sites. As you know, or as you may know, there's a large movement to reclaim some of our land, especially our sacred sites, especially if they were parks, or in one case in the city, there's a place that was an industrial dump for 50 years. And it was a very sacred site for the Dakota people. Those are the sites we're trying to reclaim and raise attention around so people know that there's sacred sites everywhere underneath how they have been colonized. The other principle from our design workshops is that the further you go into solving the game, the more difficult the Ojibwe language should get. So some of our innovations to learning here are represented by branching dialogue, which will also be audio. So we don't have the capacity in our technology yet for the computer to answer us in Ojibwe and to have a back and forth conversations, which is the essence of what we're at. What we do have, though, is understanding, and you can respond with text. That's what we're doing. I already mentioned the verb transitive animate bottleneck, the place to practice or play in a safe environment where your trauma is not re-stimulated. And you can try out if you really understand the difference between ingimina or ingiminig. We hope this game will help to bridge generation. Our youth love games. We know older people generally do not play games. We maybe read books or watch TV. We didn't have video games. So we're hoping that these young people will be able to bridge their home environment. We have Ojibwe strongly in the immersion schools, although it's not all the schools, or majority of the schools. And we also have it in ceremonies. We do not have the use of language in any fun, entertaining only way. We hope this will be the first. This is just a slice of where we are. We're in year one, the end of year one. We're just starting the game development now. Our programmer is using Unity and is creating a vertical slice, setting up all the systems to enable us to tell about how long we could make the game in terms of budget and time. Year three will be play testing, and that's when the educational research will kick in. We hope to find out how young people use this game, both people who are very beginning speakers or not speakers, and people who are more advanced. Will they take it and run with it? Will they take it and tell their friends? Will they, most importantly, take it home and play it over and over again and share it with their family? Here's another little slice of what our game design process looks like. It's very complicated. I had no idea. We have a puzzle dependency chart that you can see. We have a map, but this is of Act 1. And we have a game design document, which is about 50 pages long right now, includes 3 acts, 15 different scenes, and game mechanics. Here's an example of a sacred site. You can see on this map, it says Education Sciences Building. That's where I work at the Twin Cities University campus. 1.5 miles down this blue line, there was a island. And that island was the sacred island. Walk on VITA is what it was called. That's one of the places we hope to reclaim. The island is no longer there because they created a dam. There was a mill, a flour mill at the time, and they needed that energy from the water to run the mill. That is no longer functioning, and the island is not there, but the memory of the spirits are there. Here's a little bit about our design team. There's Anangukwe. She is our computer programmer and our lead designer. Oops. And Maniduma Ingen is a Ojibwe language person. This is Josh Heron. I'm sorry, this is John Thunder, one of our artists. He's Ojibwe. He's brilliant at 3D design. And this is Joshua Heron. He's an animator and a storyboard artist. He's doing our character design. So in closing, I would like to propose some things I'd like you to think about and help me think through. One thing that all Indigenous groups and languages could help me think about is how to share this. We would like to make this game, it's in our language, but the language is not the most expensive thing of the game. The actual coding and the build of the game and the art is very expensive. We hope to give those things to all of you who are working on other Indigenous languages, and you can put in, or we can do it for you if you want to pay our programmer to put in your language, and then you too will have this game. It will reference our stories, so it's maybe not perfect if you are also trying to reclaim your stories, but you will learn something about us, which is always fun. I think it's a challenge for me, this project, because I have been a lifelong academic. I know how to give keynote talks. I know how to conduct research. I know how to write papers. Creating a new domain really makes me step out of my comfort zone. It makes me do something that I haven't done before, which is to be a producer of a game. I have 5 people working on the team, and it's a very creative work. This was intentional because now towards the end of my career, I think it's time to reach more people, not just to write academic papers and give talks to audiences, but for the language movement to reach broader into things that are popular. Popular culture is where our culture spreads. TV, movies, games. These are the things people like to do and will do over and over again. This is why I think it's an important domain for us to find enough people to pick it up and run with it, crowdsource it, that it becomes popular. And it stands as a learning tool that you do not have to go to school for. You're going to play the game and use Ojibwe. And if you don't have enough Ojibwe to play the game, maybe you will use a software or a class to get there. That's all I have to say today. I hope you've enjoyed this talk, and I will be with you in person over the Zoom to join you for questions and answers. Thank you.